and leaving no time for the reader to grasp the situation, having already in the next page followed up Hello and welcome for my review of the latest chapter of Boku no Hero, My Hero Academia, chapter 343. So, after the last chapter, 342, had been quite a personal one, with the heroes moving out of UA, and a big chunk having been the conversation between Uraraka and Deku. Them talking about wanting to save the villains. A chapter that I believe served to make it clear to the reader that the villains should not be demonized per se, and that the heroes still envision a positive outcome, a positive future for the villains, which gets highlighted in the last panel with Todoroki finishing up the chapter with, "I wouldn't mind going for dinner sometime with him." Talking about his brother Toya, the villain Dabi. And this week's chapter continues with a long phone call of All for One with Aoyama's mother, who along with her husband had been a spy for All for One in exchange for having received a quirk for their quirkless son Aoyama. All accompanied by All for One's inner monologue, him explaining a quirk that he acquired way in the past, a quirk that lets him determine whether or not someone is lying to him. And the chapter continues with Deku and Aoyama meeting. Aoyama explaining the true plan, or at least what he knows or what he believes All for One's true plan to be. And that is to create social instability, to become a force that the world relies on. Explaining, he will become the demon lord of this world. And at the end of Aoyama's explanation, he breaks into tears, apologizing for seemingly betraying Deku and the friends again, only with All for One himself appearing behind Aoyama. And before we get much explanation, in an amazingly drawn panel, in a picture that really captivates the motion and the swift turn of Aoyama sweeping his laser, his naval laser, at All for One, making it clear that Aoyama did not betray Deku nor their friends. It was to lure out All for One. And All for One, through his quirk of being able to summon other people, summons the rest of the villains, including Shigaraki, seemingly having Deku and Aoyama outnumbered, with All for One stating that through his quirks he made sure there is no one around except those two. But this gets followed up by another double spread, revealing that the heroes as well have a teleportation quirk, with the heroes being summoned to the place as well. Seeing heroes like Endeavor, Eggshot, Mirko, Gang Orca Fat Gum, and many more, appearing at Aoyama and Deku's side. So, to sum up the chapter and to give my general impression of the chapter, I was extremely surprised by the fast pace of the chapter, having so many quick transitions to something new happening in this chapter. The way it went from All for One's phone call with Aoyama's mother to Deku and Aoyama meeting, his seeming betrayal, All for One appearing, him swiftly turning around, aiming his laser at All for One, all of the villains appearing, and leaving no time for the reader to grasp the situation, having already in the next page followed up, mimicking it in the same style, in the same paneling, having all of the heroes appear. And especially the last two pages, those double pages, those double spreads. The first one with all of the villains appearing, and then the second, the last one, with all of the heroes appearing, was just masterfully portrayed. And this makes it clear that the final confrontation is here. And I feel almost a bit bad that I had been a bit grumpy in my reviews of previous chapters, that I felt the plot was not progressing fast enough. This is kind of the opposite. I think it shows that Boku no Hero has quite of an unusual pace, sometimes dedicating chapters, multiple chapters, to character development, and then having other action-paced chapters that just speed up the pace, speed up the progression, resulting in it being kind of hard to predict the flow of future events. I'm not so sure who is All for One's matchup yet, as there seems to be no other character, no equivalent on the hero side, who is equally strong, and that would make sense from a narrative standpoint, and from the point of giving each of the character some kind of consternation, some kind of personal concernedness, being personally attached to each other, villain and hero.